Wondering whether or not Mr. Brennan could possibly be the leaker of that, disavowed 35-page...
The dirty dossier.
The dirty dossier. What's going on between the president-elect and the outgoing CIA guy?
Look, this is an individual in Brennan that's supposed to be someone that the president and the president-elect should be able to trust. And you see him going out there and making pretty outward comments that frankly don't understand the breadth and depth of Donald Trump's understanding of Russia. To make a comment like that is clearly not to understand who he is and the understanding that he has of Russia, or frankly the entire geopolitical landscape. So I think when you see someone that's supposed to be a trusted confidential advisor go out and make silly comments like this, it really makes you question what else that they've said or done, and I think that's where the president-elect's coming from on this.
Have you asked CNN where their sources were from? Do you think it's from the intelligence? Because there's only a finite amount of people that knew about this alleged two-page addendum in that Friday report.
Well, I did question them that night, and of course they're going to play the game where they don't want to reveal their sources. But as you correctly point out, there are only 4 intelligence members in that room that day. They claim multiple people. So either they've got all these intelligence folks on the hook, 3 of the 4, which I don't think is true, or they've got people who weren't in the room, which I do think is true. And I think people who weren't in the room, the idea that they took that kind of reporting and went with it really just questions the legitimacy of the report. When you're doing, I mean, in legal terms, that's called hearsay. And that's what that reporting is. It's just a bunch of people, and it's almost as questionable as the illegitimate report that was floating around the internet in the first place.
Sean, a lot of people voted for him because they want to repeal and replace Obamacare. That's in the works right now. He's promising, or did over the weekend, Donald Trump, that everyone is going to have insurance. Critics are saying, how are we going to afford that? What's your response?
Well, I think that what you've seen from Donald Trump is his using his successful business acumen. He brought down the cost of the F-35. He brought down the cost of the next generation Air Force One. He knows how to negotiate great deals. He's going to bring people like the pharmaceutical industry to the table and figure out how to instill competition in terms of drug prices, but then also additional competition across state lines where plans have to compete. That in itself will drop down costs significantly. The idea that he can use his business skills and negotiating skills to bring down the cost to allow greater access for all Americans is something that was sorely lacking the last 8 years, and I think we're going to see a big change coming.
I agree with you, but didn't Barack Obama get himself in trouble when he says if you want to keep your doctor, you can keep your doctor, you couldn't. You want to keep your plan, you can keep your plan, he couldn't. Is Donald Trump in danger of making the same mistake by saying insurance for everyone?
No, first of all, let's be clear. Barack Obama made it very clear, if you like your doctor, if you like your plan, you can keep it. That was not true. I think what Donald Trump said very clearly in that Washington Post is his goal is to get health care for everyone. That is his goal. And he's going to fight tooth and nail to make sure he gets it and use his skill set as a successful negotiator and businessman to drive costs down, to create more plan options and doctor options. I mean, look, Brian, if you look at where things stand right now, in market after market, you've got one plan now that's available to people. That's not competition. And frankly, what's happened is because of the onersome regulations of Obamacare, that many places that used to have 2 or 3, 4 plans for people to choose from are now down to a single plan. And not only are you down to a single plan, but many of the doctors that used to participate in either that plan or the plan that you were involved in have opted out. So right now, what Donald Trump is talking about is actually instilling a massive sense of competition into the system that gives people that choice that they've always wanted, and by doing so also lowers the competition, the cost.
How close are you to coming up with a plan?
He is real close. He continues to meet with folks and sketch it out. But this is a really important thing for him to get done. And I think you're going to continue to see this right on the top of that list coming out of January 20th.
Well, I know reporters have been going after you because as if Obamacare is great. Listen, I was talking to a nurse practitioner over the weekend who has Obamacare but doesn't go to the doctor because can't afford to pay for it because never meets the deductible. But that's another day. But I mentioned the reporters who have come after you. There is a suggestion, Sean, given the fact that 500 people were in attendance at the press conference that Donald Trump had the other day over at Trump Tower, and the Brady briefing room at the White House only holds 49 people, that you would like to perhaps move it over to the Eisenhower building or over to the conference center on the White House property. But some of the White House press pool taking it very personally. They don't want to give up their turf inside the West Wing. There's a little pull, a little yin and yang there going on. What is the plan at this point? Is it to move them out, to make room for more, or just payback because they've not been very nice to your boss?
Well, I think the idea right now is, as you correctly pointed out, if we do a call, we get hundreds of people to jump on the call. If we have a press conference, the other day at Trump Tower, we had 400, almost 500 folks show up and thousands that wanted credentials. Space was limited. Right now, as you correctly point out, the Brady briefing room has 49 seats. There's a room just down the way that 150 seats, and we're trying to look at ways to increase the accessibility because there's such a huge demand and excitement to cover our Trump administration that we are looking at those options. There are some logistical hurdles to doing that, and we're trying to walk through what are the options, what are the possibilities of increasing the accessibility to the thousands of people that want to be present to hear some of these briefings firsthand.
Sean, there's no doubt about it. Donald Trump is rankling some people who are looking at the way the world order is going right now, and he looks like he's going to change things. He's been very aggressive in saying that he wants to, he's not happy the way China's been treating us. In fact, some of his policies of not committing to a one China policy, meaning red China, has in the national newspaper that China publishes every day and basically writes the editorials, they called Donald Trump immature, and that he's actually bringing danger to Taiwan by not committing to the one China policy. What's your reaction?
Well, again, I'd go back to the same answer as healthcare. I mean, he is a great negotiator and a great businessman, and I think he's going to go into every situation keeping all options on the table. He understands the importance of a one China policy right now, but I think that he is going to use the skill set that he has that's made such a tremendous business to the benefit of this country, whether it's foreign policy or domestic policy. He understands that we've got to stop projecting to our adversaries and our allies every move that we're going to make, and we need to come into negotiations with the ability to have an upper hand.
Sean, Congressman Lewis in Atlanta, the 5th Congressional District in Atlanta, you know the controversy here over the weekend. He said that the president-elect was not a legitimate president. President-elect tweeted back, Donald Trump tweeted back to him, going after him, saying he needs to focus on his own district and the inner cities there because things aren't good in Atlanta. So they've had this back and forth. Now Congressman Lewis is saying he's not going to the inauguration, and 25 other congressmen and women are saying they're not going to go either. Could Donald Trump handle this in a different way? Could they work together? Is there something he can do to say, Congressman Lewis, come in my office, let's fix this? Or what's your response to all of it?
Well, I hope they do, and I know that, President-elect Trump's going to meet with Martin Luther King III today in New York to talk about the legacy of Dr. King, ways that we can continue to enfranchise people and advocate for more people to be part of the voting process and further the legacy that Dr. King fought so hard for. I think what's disappointing is someone like John Lewis, who is such an icon of voting rights and civil rights, to make a comment about the legitimacy of an election, something that he's fought so hard to create the integrity of, to talk about delegitimizing an election. So I think that the president-elect would love to talk to him and anybody else that wants to further the goal of uniting this country and moving forward. But make no mistake, if someone's going to attack the president-elect, whether he's going to attack him or this country or American workers, Donald Trump is leaving a successful business to fight for this country, to fight for American workers, and he's not going to sit back and let people take pot shots. But if someone wants to work, anyone in this country wants to work towards a greater goal that unites our country and puts American workers back together and reasserts our place in the globe, he's going to stand with them and make that happen.
I think we're all for that. Hey, Sean, real quickly, I know Donald Trump was going to go down to Washington. There's been some schedule changes. Is he still going to Washington today?
He was never going to Washington. I think what he was trying to do is find an appropriate way to celebrate and observe Martin